Greetings, this is Ty Brown with D1 Ticker and Coaches.wire. We are here at the 2023 AVCA National Conference. I'm joined by Matt Ulmer. Matt is the head volleyball coach at Oregon. Greetings, Matt. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Now, Matt, your mother is and has been a head volleyball coach.
Mm-hmm. Yep, Carthage College in Division III school in Kenosha, Wisconsin.
Exactly. Been there for 1,000 years.
23.
All right.
Feels like 1,000.
And you grew up in a household, a coaching household.
Mm-hmm.
Was it a given that you were going to coach, or at least a given that you were going to be some type of athlete? Tell me about that.
Yeah, so looking back, yeah, it probably was,
Okay.
but I fought it for as long as I could.
Really?
But no, I mean, all my memories that I have are in the gym.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it was basketball, my dad was a really great basketball player. My aunt was a great basketball player. My mom was a 5-sport Hall of Famer.
Wow.
Basketball was in her blood also, and and then volleyball. So I just remember being in the gym for forever and was just loving sports and loving stats and loving everything about all the different sports. So. Not surprising that when I got to college and I went to my first class, I was going to be a lawyer. That was a sports agent maybe.
Yeah.
Like that's what I was going to do. And I went to my first law class and I walked out within 5 minutes and I went back to my academic advisor and I said, I'm going to be a coach.
Yeah.
And I told myself on that walk from class to advisor that if I could be the very best at it, then I can make a living for my family,
Wow.
and just do what I love. And
One
so
class.
it's happened.
One
5
class.
minutes.
Probably
Probably like in the first minute and a half
Yeah.
I knew, but I stuck it out for another 3.5 minutes
Yeah.
and then quietly snuck out the back door.
like, yeah, this ain't what we're doing.
Yeah, I
this
went.
is not happening.
So, yeah.
That's interesting. And so you think about that in undergrad and making that decision early. For some of us, we're still making a decision on where we're going to be when we figure out our lives, but making that decision early. So tell me the focus the rest of college and then when you graduated in terms of knowing that coaching is where you want to go.
Yeah, so in the fall, I was able to coach with my mom,
Okay.
right, because I was at the school with her. And so I'd be coaching with her in the women's side.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the spring, I was competing on the men's side.
Yeah.
So year-round, all volleyball, but I was able to do both. And I knew I really wanted to coach, and that was going to be more of my future.
Mm-hmm.
I got to the point where I was actually probably good enough to go play professionally on the men's side, but I had a great opportunity to go out to Long Beach State and become their volunteer coach and kind of just get that going for me. So I went straight from Carthage College, Division III, Kenosha, Wisconsin, out to Long Beach State, who had won 3 national championships and had Misty May and the who's who of volleyball at the time. So for me, it was just a great opportunity that I couldn't pass up, and I knew what I wanted to do, and I was aggressive with it.
Mm-hmm. So you went out there as a volunteer. You became the head coach. How long was that transition?
So I was a volunteer for 2 seasons,
Okay.
and then both assistant coaches retired, basically from college. And so got lucky that the boss at the time, Brian Gimolaro, who's a Hall of Famer, he thought I was okay enough, and he hired me as an assistant coach. And then I had 5 seasons with him as the assistant coach at Long Beach, and then we had our first child. And Southern California is pretty expensive to live in, and I was only home on Sunday nights because I was coaching 2 club teams, running a club, head beach coach and indoor coach. So all of a sudden just need to look and see how can I do both of this, how can I balance our life better. And so we opened it up and looked around, and Oregon was an opportunity as an assistant coach. And so we moved to Eugene, Oregon, knowing nothing about it. Went out there and was an assistant there for 3 seasons and then became the head coach, and it's been 7 years there.
So at Long Beach State, you were the head beach volleyball coach and assistant indoor.
Yeah.
Okay, and then become the head coach at Oregon.
Yep.
And we're working on we just finished our 7th season.
Yep, 7th season.
6 out of 7 seasons we made the tournament.
Yep, 6 out of 7.
Which is excellent. Been to the Elite 8 a few times.
Mm-hmm.
You think about winning. You think about winning in a conference on the West Coast. Volleyball is big, right? Tell me about the things you felt like you've had to put in place over the last 7 years as the head coach there at Oregon.
I mean, most important thing is relationships, right? Just building relationships, setting a foundation of how you're going to treat people, how I'm going to act as a professional, how I'm going to treat my staff. And I think I was able to do that as an assistant coach at Oregon. But then when you become the head coach, it really changes things, and there's adjusing that has to go. They don't look at you the same. All of a sudden, you have to tell them no. You have to be the bad guy in their eyes sometimes.
Final decisions, right?
Yep. So I think that takes time. But I feel like I feel like up until maybe like last year, finally now does it feel like more settled. That it's after at 6 years, it was like
Really?
okay, kind of got this where I wanted to be from the
long?
culture. I think it takes a long time.
Wow.
To make that change and kind of just get it rolling, get the staff in place, the whole deal. But I'm really grateful for the opportunity that Oregon gave me. and just to see the relationships grow within the athletic department, within the community, to see the fan support now coming up and them liking what our team looks like and how they compete. All those things, it's taken a long time to make it happen, but now it's blossomed.
Can your mother come to any games? Because she's coaching.
Yeah. So it was really cool. Actually, we went and played Marquette this fall in the non-conference, and so that's about 45 minutes away from Carthage. And so I was able to sneak away after our practice to go watch her team play, which I hadn't been able to do in person since I left. So like 15 years or whatever it had been. So that was really neat to be able to do that. And then, so mom's season ends a little bit before ours, so she's able to come out for Thanksgiving every year because her playoffs are done, and so she sees our last home weekend. And then generally, we've been able to host quite a bit in the playoffs, so she can be there for some of that. Or if we go on the road, somehow we always come back to the Midwest for playoffs. And this year we were in Madison, Wisconsin, and that was a 2-hour drive for her. Yeah. So we had a pretty decent green section amidst all the red, but she was there cheering as loud as she could.
Okay, so humor me on this. My mom's not with me anymore. But, your mother's, depending on relationship, you're one of your biggest champions, right? And you call your mom and you might say, I don't know, I'm going through a funk, I need some help here, or something like that. And you have that conversation, she guides you with the mother wisdom through that conversation. Then at the end of it, you're like, okay, so I have this player too. Like, tell me about, did you ever call your mom for advice on being a head coach?
I think we both lean on each other.
Yeah.
Because even though she's been doing it for so long, again, it's all rapidly changing. Student athletes, maybe what's important to them continues to change.
Yeah.
Relationships with administration continues to change. And I think at the Division III level or Division I level, it's all relative. I mean, it's all there, So I think, there's times where she'll call me and she wants to discuss how to handle a situation, and, I'll do the best I can. And there's times I call her and just vent, because that's my person that I can vent to without, bringing it on anybody else. Right, and she can hear it, and then she can kind of help me, even if it's just listening, and then I can talk through it, and she can just listen, and then give her advice. Yeah, that's huge. Just that we have each other through that, I think it's pretty neat, and to be able to do it as long as we both have together. It's a pretty cool dynamic.
That's excellent. She probably waited, could you hurry up and be a head coach? Because we need to talk about some things.
Yeah, we need that. Let's go. Let's get it going. Let's get it going.
That's
yes.
hilarious.
And I say, yes, Mom, whatever. Yeah, of course. I will obey. Yeah.
Thinking about the state of volleyball, right? The game, the recruiting, the things that are involved with volleyball, the trend of participation, attendance, and viewership. Tell me about how you feel about the health of the game, college volleyball.
It's at an all-time high. It's such an exciting time to be a part of women's volleyball. And personally, I feel responsible, for doing our part, to continue with that growth. So again, at Oregon, it's not a huge volleyball area, historically. So trying to educate fans, on what volleyball is. Again, it's not a big. The men's side doesn't really exist, for volleyball there. So trying to get, a lot of the men's fans, excited by it, and so just trying to teach them the game. And once people come and see our team play and see the competition, they're hooked. They're blown away. They love it. They love how dynamic it is. They love the great team chemistry and just the competitive spirit of the game.
Yep.
So it's an amazing product, and our student athletes work so hard, to make that happen. And then administration getting behind it to make it the best product that we can possibly put out there. And so that part is really exciting. We're top 10 in attendance this year, which we've never been. We set our single season ticket record this year. We set our single match, record this year. We sold out, for our arena. So many exciting things. And then we had multiple matches that were, huge record highs for us as far as viewership goes. And then to see that across the country, obviously championed by Nebraska with over 92,000 people in the football stadium. And again, just what that did for not only our sport, but women's sports. I think just showing people again, this is a great product. These women, deserve the opportunity to be seen and to be supported. So I think more and more people are open to that idea now, and there's some more support being pushed behind them, and I think you're only going to see growth from that. And so for me, I want to do my part, but also I'm just excited for those people that are doing what they can do, and just to see the growth.
Which is excellent. In college athletics, two things have been very instrumental over the last pretty much 2 years in terms of impact on the game: the NIL and the transfer portal. And I wonder about how those things have impacted you, the women you coach, the campus, and that type of environment there, at Oregon, and your thoughts on just NIL and transfer portal in general.
Yeah, I mean, with transfer portal, to me, nothing's really changed with the transfer portal. It's just now there's a database that has everybody in it. But people were transferring before, and I just didn't know who it was. And all of a sudden they pop up on another team. You're like, when did that happen? When was she available? So unless you kind of knew maybe who their club or high school coach, or if they'd reached out to you directly, like you wouldn't even have known that they were, they were looking to transfer. Yep. So what I like is that it's streamlined. I like that, everybody's there. I can at least see, and I can at least make a phone call too. And maybe they never thought of Oregon before, but now I just know that they're available, and it's a conversation that we can have. So I think from that standpoint, that's great. And I think, the transfers have really been blown up because of that COVID season. But I will be interested to see, after next year, when there's no more of that extra year available, what the numbers look like. It sure feels like the undergrad numbers for transfers isn't that high, compared to where we were before, or maybe average, but it sure feels that way. So I'll be interested to see what that looks like. But I know because of the grad transfers, it sure feels like, there's so many people, and there are, but it makes sense because now they need to go find a master's, and maybe the school doesn't even have that program, or now they have a different opportunity. So, but I think for all those student athletes that have been able to go get their master's with that extra year, I think it's been really great for them. It's been weird to only have a player for a year, or two, depending upon what their master's program is. But overall, I found that it's been a really great experience on both sides, and I've been excited for that. So, and then with NIL, I mean, I don't know how we can't be excited that our student athletes can get paid for their talents. How it changes the game. Yeah, I think, with anything that happens, there's always going to be the boundaries that are pushed in different directions, and then how do we combat that? How do we legislate that, et cetera? And it's never easy. Right. But I think I've seen so many different ways where it's been a real positive thing. Yeah. And again, like a lot of our student athletes, they don't come from money. So for them just to be able to breathe a little bit easier because of their talents, or what they're able to do, by putting in their hard work, by anybody else who has a job, that makes money, that's just what they're doing. I think that's a positive thing.
Yeah, I think it's excellent. Right, excellent. You think about this memo from Charlie Baker, President NCAA, and he touched on a number of things about changes that the NCAA is thinking, like, hey, here's what we want to try to wrap our mind around in terms of the state of college athletics. And I wonder if any of those bullet points that he pointed out stick in your brain and you have an opinion or some thoughts on some of the things.
Give me what he was talking about.
One of them specifically was like bringing in the NIL collective situation, bringing that in-house, making it, trying to put an institutional apparatus around it so it doesn't continue to be the wild, wild west out there. So I wonder if you have any thoughts about that, especially a school like Oregon, right?
Yeah, I think the interesting thing about NIL, especially with all that, is that, people talk, but what's real? It's like people will always say whatever they want to say, whatever they think will get a reaction, but I don't actually know what's actually happening. Okay. You hear these numbers that go out to different football players or different volleyball players or whatever. It's like, I don't know if that's true or not. But again, like I said, I think it's tough. The reason that you make the rules, a lot of that is happening correctly, and then there's going to be the outliers. So if administrators are thinking that we need to do something about it, then I trust that they're going to try and figure out what the best thing is. And think of it this way, my student athletes and their families, normally they're kind of in their bubble about what's best for them, right? But my job is to see the big picture of what's best for the team. And within that, I want to do everything I can for what's best for them and for their families. Yeah. But I don't expect them to know everything that I know about the inner workings of the team and, big picture. And so same thing when it comes to administration. Like, I don't have all the information when it comes to them. I can sure make a guess, or I can have an opinion, but I feel like without all the information, then it's hard for me to know exactly what to do. But what I know is that I trust my administration. Yeah, I think Rob Mullins and Val Johnson are as good as they come. They've been really good to me. They've been open and honest. And I know they're doing everything that they can to fight for our student athletes and for the future of college athletics. And I want to assume the same thing about everybody else, and President Baker, and make sure, we're going to do everything that we can for our student athletes. And I trust that they're going to do the same.
I'll ask two questions and we'll wrap. First one is, you talk about conference shifting and changing conferences and travel and the stuff that are involved now. I wonder about the strategic thought when those conversations started, when things were executed on, and now you think about, okay, let's think about gameplay, let's think about scheduling, let's think about travel, let's think about these things. Tell me where your mind is in terms of that and that type of stuff.
Yeah, I think when all the conference shifting goes on, like we're going to be part of the Big Ten now, right? Again, and people want to complain about what's happening, but I always think like, well, what's the alternative?
Yep.
And so for us, is the alternative that we are going to just stay in the pack, but maybe have to cut sports? Mm-hmm. Like, would that have been better to limit female student athletes' opportunities or male? Like, mm-hmm. to me, like that doesn't sound like a better opportunity, right. Than what's going on. Now, because of that, will we have to travel more? We're going to have to travel more. Yeah. But to me, that is a better choice than limiting opportunity, right? So I think for us, I don't know what that looks like, and so that there is some anxiety there because I don't know the specifics. I know what it looked like when I was in the Pac-12. I knew all the college towns we were going to and the hotels we were staying at and the pregame meals. Like I knew all that. We had that dialed in. Yeah. And now that's going to change. Educational. But overall, the change can be positive. Yeah. We don't know yet. We'll look back in a few years and see exactly where we messed up, like always with everything we do, or where it was good, or where it can be better. All those things. So. Same thing. I trust that our administration made the very best judgment that they could, for our student athletes, for our university, for college sports, and so now we have this exciting opportunity moving forward, and we're going to work it out, and we're going to do everything we can, so the student athlete experience is the best it can be.
Everything is an educational opportunity.
It is, right? Yeah. And everything. One thing we can count on is change. Yeah. And there's so much change going on over the last 5 years. I feel like. It's just almost in every way, mm-hmm. And again, that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just. We have to get through it. Mm-hmm. And I think hopefully at the end of the rainbow, we're going to find the pot of gold. Hopefully that is there, and we've been able to figure out what's best for student athletes in the landscape.
Yep, you're absolutely right. Is there a rule on the court or some type of legislation off the court that if you could magically change it, you would change or modify or add or take away?
I think anything that can take away from like judgment of of an official is good because that can be so inconsistent from set to set, point to point. Right. So for in our sport, so the double contact rule, like I'm a setter by nature, and we've trained multiple All-American setters, and so to me it's like I take a lot of pride in that. But also I don't think it's something where if it's a bad looking set on your side that we can just let that go, because it's not an advantage to your team to make a bad set. So I always compare it like to our fans and things like that of like if a quarterback doesn't throw a tight spiral, that's not going to be an advantage to his team, right? That can, it could be wobbly, interception, harder to catch, etc. So just because it's not as pretty, it doesn't mean that it's something you're not going to. The ref in football is not going to blow it dead because it wasn't a tight spiral. Mm-hmm. That's how I compare it to in our sport, right? Like you give me a bad toss or you give me a bad set, like it's going to be harder for me to do my job, and so you're already at a disadvantage. So I don't think penalizing that, and then it keeps the game going, and then everybody can stop putting their fingers up in the crowd for a double and yelling at the ref and all that kind of stuff, and the refs don't have to worry about that. So I just feel like again, like it's just something that changes from day to day, point to point, and so I think we can get rid of that and just let the game keep going.
Excellent. Last question here. If you were in a room and full of people who wanted to be a head coach, volleyball, any sport really, wanted to be a CEO, wanted to lead any type of project, wanted to be in a leadership position, and there were also current head coaches in the room, current leaderships, current CEOs, are there one or two foundational principles or thoughts or actions that you would suggest to them to help them understand how to be a successful leader?
One is to limit their insecurities. Okay. Because I feel like whenever you have your own insecurities, that's going to bleed out to everybody else, right? So making sure that your foundation is strong, personally. And then two, again, it's about the people. And again, when we lose sight about that, then I think we make poor decisions. And once again, that's going to hurt all the way down. That trickle effect, is going to be steep. So I think those are the two big things: is knowing who you are, and then staying within that. Don't lose yourself. And then again, just take care of the people around you, whether it's your staff, support staff, whether it's your student athletes, whoever that is. Like that, at the end of the day, you need everybody to be doing their best. You're trying to raise everybody up. So I think that's our goal as leaders. That's what we're in charge with.
Which is excellent. So limit insecurities by knowing who you are, right? And then make sure you surround yourself with great people and know the people around you.
There's a million different ways to be successful. Yeah. Anybody that's trying to tell you, this is the only way, they're trying to make a buck. Right. Okay. So that's not it, right? There's a million different ways in our sport, in life, whatever, So just embrace who you are, right? And then be the best version of that. And you'll find your following, you'll find your path. And then lift each other up on the way. You don't have to step on people to get up. Yep. We can all do it together.
Yeah, which is excellent. Well, Matt, I appreciate you joining us here on D1 Ticker Coaches Wire.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.